Pantheon AI presents Government Bitcoin Strategy Revealed. Intel stock explodes 23%. Treasury yields defy Fed rate cut. Welcome to the PAI Morning Briefing. It's September 19th, 2025. And John, we have a lot to unpack today. The markets are giving us some really mixed signals.
They really are, Sarah. It feels like we're looking at a few different stories all at once. So let's start with the big picture. What are the main indices telling us this morning?
Well, it's a picture of caution, for sure. The S&P 500 closed at 6646.49, but it was basically flat. A tiny dip of less than 0.1%. The Dow is in a similar boat, down just a bit to 46,205.
So investors are basically holding their breath. But isn't there a different story over in the tech world? I thought I saw a little bit of green.
You did. That's the interesting part. The Nasdaq actually managed a slight uptick, closing around 22,561. It's not a huge jump, but it suggests sentiment in tech is, at the very least, holding steady.
Right, so while the broader market is treading water, tech investors are feeling a little more optimistic. What about the crypto space? That's usually where the real drama is.
And it doesn't disappoint today. Bitcoin is down about 1%, trading near 115,950. And its sibling, Ethereum, took an even bigger hit, sliding almost 2.5% to around 4480.
So both major cryptos are in the red. Even if the percentages seem small, that kind of coordinated dip usually means something. It feels like that broader caution we're seeing in the stock market is spilling over.
Exactly. And speaking of crypto, that brings us to one of the biggest undercurrents right now, the U.S. government's growing interest in Bitcoin. There are all these stories popping up about what it means when the government itself starts buying.
That's a huge deal. It's not just about institutional strategy anymore. It's about what it means for every American's buying power. And when you have figures like former President Trump suggesting a strategic Bitcoin reserve, wow. You have to ask, is this a move to save the banking system or just a recipe for more volatility for the average person?
It's a fascinating question. It's this wild mix of financial innovation and political narrative, which always keeps investors on their toes. It's a real head-scratcher.
Definitely. And speaking of head-scratchers, let's pivot to another one in the tech world. Intel's stock. It jumped nearly 23% in a single day, right on the heels of that big NVIDIA run.
Right. So the big debate is, should investors jump on that train, or is this just a bubble waiting to pop? You've got this incredible growth in one corner, and then a traditional player like Intel trying to catch some of that afterglow. It's a classic momentum versus sustainability argument.
It really is. Now let's shift gears to energy. There's some buzz about a potential natural gas deal that could really light a fire under energy stocks. What's the story there?
So this is interesting because it's not just about the markets. On one hand, yes, it could be a huge catalyst for energy traders. But on the other, it's wrapped up in U.S.-China relations. Trump is pointing to it as proof of his deal-making skills.
So it's as much about geopolitics as it is about barrels of oil, or in this case, cubic feet of gas. It's like a chess game where every move has diplomatic consequences.
Precisely. And to add one more layer of complexity to our day, let's talk about the bond market. The Fed just cut interest rates for the first time this year, but the 10-year Treasury yield went up. It's at a 2-week high.
Wait, that seems completely backward. A rate cut is supposed to push yields down, right? So what does this mean? Is the market starting to doubt the economy's strength?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a puzzle. It could be a sign of doubt, or it could just be a more nuanced reaction to long-term expectations. Honestly, this is the kind of thing that keeps strategists up at night.
I can imagine. So if we step back and connect all these dots, we have potential government intervention in crypto, a split personality in the stock market, a geopolitical energy play, and a bond market that's sending confusing signals. It really feels like we're at an inflection point.
It does, and you see that divergence everywhere. The Nasdaq is up, but the S&P and Dow are down. And if you look at the Russell 2000, which tracks smaller companies, it's down even more noticeably, almost a full %. That might be a better reflection of how the non-institutional investor is feeling.
That's a great point. It's like our wallets are having a conversation with us, questioning every move. You know, it reminds me of that friend who always says, "You're doing too much," right when you think you're getting things in order.
Laughs. Totally. And with that Intel surge, it's easy to get swept up. It brings to mind that old joke. Did you hear about the guy who only invested in rising stocks? He got left holding the bag. The reality is always more complex than the punchline.
Absolutely. It's a microcosm of the whole tech industry's volatility. And that bond market behavior is just as fascinating. It's like the Fed offered everyone a coupon for a free meal, but investors are looking at the menu and thinking, I'm not so sure about the chef today.
That's a perfect analogy. The bond market is speaking in riddles, and we have to try and figure out what it's saying about economic health and inflation. And, of course, none of this happens in a vacuum. The whole world is watching.
Right. A U.S. government move on Bitcoin could set a precedent for Europe and Asia. The energy deal impacts global trade. The bond market signals influence currency exchange rates everywhere. It's all interconnected.
So, what are the experts saying? The general advice seems to be caution and diversification. Regarding crypto, they're saying the government's interest isn't a buy now signal, but more of a long-term strategic play.
And for the average investor, this all comes down to personal strategy, doesn't it? Are you sticking with blue chips, dipping a toe into crypto, or maybe looking at energy? It's like deciding to take a walk in a park with unpredictable weather. You have to be prepared for anything.
Well said. So to wrap it all up for today, we have mixed U.S. indices, with tech as the lone bright spot. Crypto is volatile, reflecting policy jitters. The energy sector is at a potential turning point, and the bond market is giving us a classic conundrum.
It's a lot to digest, but that's what we're here for, to be your information co-pilot. So as you plan your day, think about these things. How do you see the government's role in crypto? And is the tech rally for real? Asking those questions is half the battle.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Stay informed, stay curious, and we'll be back tomorrow to break it all down again.
Pantheon AI, your information co-pilot.
Because learning shouldn't feel like a full-time job. Take care and see you next time.